I'm not pulling out of the driveway. We all know what that means. It's time for another Drive to Work at Home edition. So normally I use my time at home to interview people, but today I'm interviewing two people because they're so much fun. And so I have Tom Jenkot and Sarah Wassell, who are doing Booster Fun. So we're going to talk about what Booster Fun is and what exactly does it take to do. So hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so let's first explain. So Tom, since you were here from the very beginning, what is Booster Fun? What is it?
Oh yeah, that's what is Booster Fun? Booster Fun is a something that we attach to like a set of cards. We have the main set of cards, and we take like a certain number of those and make these highly resonant bespoke treatments. So we'll make a new frame, we'll find a new art style, and make something that fans get really excited about.
Okay, so here's what I'm sort of interested in is, let's say you're working on a set. Let's walk through what you have to do to make Booster Fun for a set.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so first it starts with talking to the people that are creating the set, the game designers like you, and then the creative world building creatives. They're working on that whole set, like when they're working on a new plane or whatever. And we talk to those people to figure out what's really cool about the set, and that information feeds into a brainstorm, a big brainstorm where we go off, we do these kind of half-day things and really come up with a bunch of ideas for cool resonant things. Then do you want me to go on? Then we create some proof of concepts. We test those with some Magic players to see which ones are working well. And then we align them to cards in the set. Then we commission the art. So it's a gross oversimplification that's like months and months and months in the making, but that's the basics. That's the top level.
Okay, so Sarah, what makes a good Booster Fun? Like I mean, you guys have done a bunch of these. What are you looking for when you make Booster Fun?
Well, we're looking for a couple things. Like, a main thing is we want real, like, visual resonance with, like, the set itself, right? With the world, with the feeling of it, with the vibe of it. So, like, the perfect situation is when we can find some kind of art style that fits really well with it. And, like, Streets of New Capenna is, like, a great example, right? Because we had that, like, demon mobster, like urban kind of noir vibe happening. And then, there's this like Art Deco is such a strong visual style that it fits so perfectly with that. And it was just like the floodgate opened of all these amazing artists and all these like really cool visual things we could do with that didn't look like main set art, right? There was just like this really fertile ground for it. So I would say that like fitting in the world visually is a big deal. And also stuff that is exciting, both for us as we're brainstorming and within the studio when we share ideas with other people. Like, the best thing ever is when I start to get a bunch of sketches or a bunch of final art in, and like people walking by in different departments, I can pull them over and be like, hey, you want to see something? And they'll see like 10 of these new pieces together and they'll be like, oh my gosh, these are so fun to look at. These are so exciting. And then when they open the packs, that same feeling keeps happening. So those are kind of like the two most important things I would say that we're trying to do.
Yeah, one other thing you brought up, which is really interesting, is we have an amazing pool of artists, but there are a lot more artists out there than our normal pool of artists. Talk a little bit about this. Let you guys tap into stuff we don't normally get to do. So talk a little bit about getting to go outside Magic's sort of artistic norm, if you will.
Yeah. Go on, Tom.
Oh, I'm Tom.
Go on. Say something good.
Say something good. So much pressure. We're constantly on the lookout for artists. We also love art. So like some of our pastimes are scrolling through Instagram, for instance, and just really seeing some cool artists. But when we have something specific in mind, like Sarah was mentioning, like the Demon Monsters, one of the most resonant examples I think of is when we went to Kaldheim, the Viking world, and we made a not work frame, Viking frame, when we used this kind of like death metal art. Like, so we knew that's what we wanted. So we go out and we look for these artists. We look for these artists that do that thing. And we inevitably run into all of these artists that are doing crazy, beautiful things, but just don't normally have a home in like main set Magic. And so it gives us a chance to work with these new artists, expand that edge, expand that art style that we're using. And a lot of times, which is really cool, we'll find somebody that works well in Booster Fun, and they'll end up doing stuff in the main set, which is just so great for us.
So one of the things that I know, because I'm participating behind the scenes, is for any one idea you do, there's lots of ideas you don't do. And I don't think let's walk a little. I just want to walk a little bit through this because I know it's interesting. Like, how many ideas do you, let's say for a premiere set? How many ideas do you guys explore before, and then how many do you tend to pick? So, what do you start with and what do you end up with?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That's a good question.
Early on for Booster Fun, we were looking for that one golden idea, but we found that there's a lot more room for ideas. So, if I answer the second question first, we usually end up with 2 to 3 ideas for a set. That seems to be about, that right moment, like where we're making the best ideas. But as far as groups of ideas, I was just pouring through some our last brainstorm, kind of cleaning it up for review. And I mean, there's like 40 ideas in there, and they're all good. But it's just what's going to fit the cards the best, right? What people are going to respond to the best. So 40 and 3. That's the answer. 40 and 3. Sarah, do you have anything to add to that?
I do, actually, because you said, like, I don't want to inflate your ego or anything, but you said something really smart. Like this week at some point we were talking about, like, the process.
Really hard not to inflate my ego.
Well, I don't want you to get drunk with power. That's really like, I'm thinking of you in the moment. I'm trying to be supportive. But we, like, as Tom detailed this process of like all this listening we do and all the brainstorming, and like he said it generally, but all of those like kind of steps equate to like some really like specific processes that we do as a team, right? To like generate, kind of to try to generate the same level of ideas with each set. But the reality is there's always an element of chaos, because at any point we have to kind of like recognize that the main thing we're trying to do is make the coolest thing. And sometimes the coolest idea doesn't come up in the brainstorm, even in those 40 ideas. Sometimes we do that brainstorm and we pick 3 and we're like, these are amazing, and we get working on them. And then someone says something 2 weeks later and we're all like, that's the coolest thing.
Oh man, so that's, like chaos is key. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So can we have an example? Can you give an example where that happened in Booster Fun? In a release product.
I've
that's
got
the
one.
tough part.
I've got a kind of a quick one. I think I can talk about this. So this is, again, like Streets of New Capenna. We were working on all those deco cards, and we had like 2 or 3 kind of, we had the lands versions of them. And then we had the like, those black and gold gilded frames, which came with that special print treatment and looked super cool. And we realized, like, part of the way through that process that we needed to do some Planeswalker versions in the Art Deco style, but we kind of like hadn't figured out the best way to pull that off. And then I had gotten in one of our first new artists that we signed up, is this guy, Tom Roberts, that Tom and I really like initially keyed off. He did, in his own personal work, he did this amazing Metropolis poster, from that like 1920s, like really cool early film. And so he had done one of the first pieces of Elspeth for the set. And we realized, this guy's really got a handle on it. Let's just have him do all the Planeswalkers. And so they were tied together. They were themed with the set. But that was not a thing that we had planned early on. It just kind of happened in the set development.
Yeah, one of the things that's also interesting as we talk about it is, just for the audience to clarify, there's a lot of different component pieces of what they work on. So art is one thing, different styles of art, frames and sort of different visual looks of the cards, and then printing treatments, which is, we're getting into more in the future, so we haven't done a lot yet, but the future has a lot of printing treatments in it, so we're looking at a lot of things. So, like, there's a lot of component pieces here. Like, a lot of what I know you guys do is find all these component pieces and bring them together so that the finished product is something really cool. So Here, it might be fun to just share some stories of different sets. So I'm going to pick a set, and then you guys tell me a Booster Fun story from that set. Okay?
Okay.
So the first one's going to be for Tom. Throne of Eldraine, which was the very first Booster Fun product. What is your... Give me a story from doing Throne of Eldraine.
That's a tough one, because that was before my time. I was hired into this. Yeah, I was hired into the studio like 3 or 4 months before it released. So
okay, we can start a set later. I thought you had done Throne of Eldraine. So okay, I will. Let's jump to what was after Throne of Eldraine was Theros. Theros Beyond Death. Did you work on Theros Beyond Death?
No.
Okay, we'll keep going. Ikoria. Did you work on Ikoria?
Try again.
Zendikar Rising.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk Zendikar Rising. Set. Okay, Zendikar Rising
was the first set. And
okay.
So that was an interesting one. Like I honestly had come on, and the frame was already done. That I forget what they call it, but the Zendikar frame with the hedrons, and they had wanted to do like a travel poster style for that. So. It was really quick. It was like it wasn't the first job actually I did. The first one was the first double masters, which was really cool. But for Zendikar, it was just finding these travel poster artists that do kind of like that kind of sun-kissed, kind of like medium to long shot versions of these things. Like so you can see these creatures off in the distance. We got some amazing things like that Lotus Cobra. I think the best story for Zendikar is Booster Fun is that I worked with Anato Finn Stark and Dominic Mayer. We had those artists. That was their first jobs for Magic there, and they did an amazing job in there. And since then, they're doing tons of main set art. They've graduated over to main set. Like, I don't think you can see a set past Zendikar or maybe a couple sets down where they're not in that set, and they're just killing it. And I'm just so happy for them.
Okay, so after Zendikar Rising was Kaldheim. We touched upon it earlier, but what's a fun story from Kaldheim?
Fun story from Kaldheim. God, it's tough for me. I focus on, this is going to be horrible. I don't want the world to know this, but I'm just going to say it. I focus on the negative. I see all those little nicks and those things like that. What's a fun thing? All the late art, all the struggles. Was a fun thing. Were
you involved with the poster, the metal posters? Were you involved in that?
Oh, the metal. Oh, like the metal lands. So I think that's a fun story there. So it's kind of Booster Fun, kind of Secret Lair drop. Mm-hmm. We had realized that like this, as these cards were getting together with the knotwork and the death metal art, that they were really cool, and we wanted to do some basic lands in that style. And so in the course of a couple weeks, we spun up this project for Secret Lair Drop to do those Mark Riddick lands where he redrew the mana symbols. And sorry, I just found a piece of breakfast on my arm. We can cut that. We can fix that in post. We hired him to do these lands. We didn't have a lot of time. He knocked them out in like 2 weeks, and they're perfect. They were called like the brutal, what were they called? Brutal basic lands or something like that.
Something like that.
Perfect name too. Yeah.
You make a good point that I want to stress to the audience in that you guys do the Booster Fun for the normal sets, but also Secret Lairs. A lot of the Booster Fun aesthetic gets sort of moved into some Secret Lair stuff as well. So you guys are also working on the Secret Lair as well as working on the all the normal stuff for the normal sets. Okay, so after Kaldheim. Yeah. So Sarah, I'm not sure when you started. So jump in with story when I get to a set that you worked on, okay?
I will. I will.
Strixhaven. What do you remember from Strixhaven?
Strixhaven was insane. So that was pre-Sarah too. So okay. Sarah will have her time. She's the newest and the best addition to the team. That said, she's been here for over a year on the team. Strixhaven was like this kind of kismet moment, like where we knew we were doing this set of cards, the Mystical what turned out to be the Mystical Archives. There's like 63 of them. And we didn't know what to do with them. We got the list. What do we do with this list? All these spells like from across the multiverse, right? But it was set on this school world. Arcavios, is that, did I say that right?
Arcavios is the world, yeah. Strixhaven
is the world.
School,
Strixhaven's the set.
Yeah.
We really didn't know what to do with this. So it was a lot of brainstorming, a lot of back and forth. I worked really closely with Doug Beyer to brainstorm what this could be. And we just found this kismet moment where it's, this is a library with kind of index cards of these spells that have been cast, or like, these beautiful, like illuminated manuscript books with all these spells that have been cast, like depicting the first time that they've been cast. So of course, the library of the multiverse would catalog all this stuff, and so that was our lean in there. So we created a gorgeous frame, and we came up with a style for the art that was kind of illuminated manuscript, leaning a little more modern. Some of the graphical elements. I had some help with that from Taylor Ingerson with chatting. So it's always a group effort. I think I'll try to hit that point a bunch, but that thing was like just came together so well, and the fans loved it too. So just kind of validation, like when we love something as a Magic player, as a Magic fans, that the fans are going to love it too.
Okay, so next up is Adventures in the Forgotten Realm, our D&D set. So we did some really fun stuff in this set. So what's your favorite story from working on the D&D set?
Sure. Again, this is me, pre-Sarah, but she'll get her chance. Once it's Sarah's turn, I'm just going to turn off my mic.
Yeah, okay.
So AFR was kind of our first crossover, one of our first crossovers besides Secret Lair Drop. And so there was a lot of material there, right? Like we looked back at 50 years of D&D, and that was one of those instances where we had way too many ideas to do. But the development process of what bubbled up to the top there were like those classic rulebook style cards, and just seeing that charming black and white art and figuring out a way to get those into cards and with color identity and stuff. But my favorite, probably of all time so far, it hasn't been topped, was the module lands. These were like a throwback to that late 70s, early 80s D&D module covers, with those, bright colors and a pretty simple design, that yellow band up in the top left. There were 9 of them. We also hired legacy D&D artists. And what do I mean by legacy? What I mean is the artists that were there in the beginning doing it. So like Larry Elmore, who who did all the red box art and the original Dragonlance covers and all this D&D art. Wayne Reynolds, Errol Otis, who did the Demi and Demigods cover.
Deities and Demigods, Deities and Demigods.
Yeah, Deities. And so many more. Alex Horley, Jeff Easley, these people that did that art. We brought them back for these old module covers. And one other cool note too, if you notice, they have these kind of fake numbering in the top. I forget what they are, but it's A11 or B13 or whatever. Yeah. Those are actually the letters were actually used on old modules back in the day, and the numbers are a continuation. So if they made A1 through 11, we started at A12, for instance. I just thought that was a really cute note.
Yeah, it's funny. I played a lot of D&D back in my youth, and so the module, I loved the modules. It took me back. It was great. Okay, so after that, we now get into Midnight Hunt, Innistrad Midnight Hunt.
All right, we're gonna get a Sarah story here, I think.
Okay,
pretty quick. I think so. I mean, there's 2 sets and then a kind of a follow-up set that you were involved in.
We can talk about Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow together. Obviously, they
I think so. So these 2 were kind of the first. The interesting thing here was they were kind of the first sets where we always have our internal effort for brainstorming, creating proof of concepts, but this was the first that we commissioned some frame concepts out. So we worked with Justine Jones on the Harvesttide frame for the first set, Midnight Hunt. She did some beautiful black and white drawings of these, these kind of harvesty, basically, celebration with some dark edges and stuff. She did both sides. And then we worked with Alex Bronwyn, both magic artists. They both have magic cards on the Fang frame for Vow. I'm using abbreviations. Crimson Vow.
The audience will get it. Don't worry.
Yeah. And so like that was a really good, like, it was great to have like additional voices there. Like we can come up with stuff, but we're in a little bit of a vacuum, right? And so like having these other voices contribute to that really helped, and we've been doing that ever since to like just add in that different voice. The Fang frames were super fun, but I also love the celebrity artists that we got for Soren. There was a Soren card done by Ayami Kojima, really famous Japanese artist who does a lot of vampires, and that was I loved seeing her art on that card.
So just curious, the Dracula stuff, was that considered booster fun, or is that considered a different thing?
I forgot about the Dracula stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Yeah.
do you guys do, when you do skins like Godzilla and Dracula, is that your area, or is that yes or no?
Back in the day it was, but
Okay.
it's shifted to a new team now because there's a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
But for Dracula, that was me as well. So, I mean, it's a pretty simple story. I guess there's some fun bits. So I worked with Doug Beyer again on that, who I worked with on the Mystical Archive cards. And it's not the movie, right? It's not any of the movies. It's not the comic books. We were using just the book, Bram Stoker's book. So, and the way the book is written, there's not a lot of descriptions of people in there too. So Doug did an amazing job cobbling together what he had and what he could find to like really figure out, who these characters are. And then on my end, I literally just went, I almost swore, caught myself, Mark. I literally went to like a card database and typed in vampire, picked my favorite vampire artists, and got them all to do all the cards for Dracula, and it turned out beautifully.
Okay, so now we're going to advance to the next set, which is Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. So Sarah, did you work on Kamigawa Neon Dynasty?
Kamigawa was it was the worst for me personally because I was transitioning to this team. So I didn't get to work on it in my old team, which is packaging. And I didn't get to work on it in this team. The only thing I did on it was help the inside team that did all of the like print treatment research to make the neon ink cards.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
So I worked on that for months.
Hitsuko.
That was a lot of like development, and I, just sheets and sheets of samples of different methods to try to like work that ink into the designs of the cards in the coolest way. So that was like the main thing that I did for that set.
Yeah, one thing that the audience, just for the audience to feel, whenever we do something new that's a treatment, it's not like the first time we ever do it is when you guys see it. Like we have to test it, and there's infinite, there's a lot of like technical behind the scenes of making sure it's the right version. And just like there's 40 versions of Booster Fun, there's all these different versions of trying different things and testing lots of different things so that we can get the absolute best.
Yeah.
And it's fun to see that. I love seeing test sheets when you see all the different things. And the funny thing behind the scenes is there's one or two cards they always use. So it's always like the same card, but they're testing different things so they can compare them. Because you want, whenever you're testing something, you want everything to be the same so that what you can see is the quality you're testing and not caring about the quality of the card. So that's always fun.
Yeah.
So Tom, what is the story for you from Neon Dynasty? What do you remember?
Neon Dynasty, we blew the hinges off the door on that one with the number of treatments. We had ninja, samurai. We had kind of this neon. I don't know all of the official front-facing names,
That's
but
fine.
we had kind of the catch-all. And then we had those ukiyo-e basics, which are just insanely gorgeous. Everybody loves them.
Those are the Japanese, the ones with the Japanese writing on them that has the sort of old watercolor style, right? Is what you're talking about?
Yeah. We replaced, that's that ukiyo-e kind of traditional Japanese style. And then we had replaced the normal title bar with the symbol, the Japanese symbol for mountain and etc. with the mana symbol. all of that stuff I worked with our agency in Japan to make sure that it was authentic. This agency Kogoro, that they've been an art agency for over 100 years in Tokyo, which is crazy. And through us, through working with them, we got some really amazing pieces. Some of the coolest things that we got were working with some celebrity artists. Like we worked with Hara Tetsuya, who did Fist of the North Star, Tarada Katsuya, who's an artist on his own right, does some amazing things. And then we also worked with, for the box topper, it was Yoji Shinkawa, who's done a lot of Metal Gear Solid stuff, like just really heavy hitters, because this is our Japanese set, at least for a while. We really hit hard on all those celebrity artists, like we like to call them.
Okay, so that moves on to Streets of New Capenna. We talked a little bit already about Streets of New Capenna. Any other?
I'm gonna shut up. I'm turning my mic off now.
Okay, Sarah. So any other cool stories from Streets of New Capenna?
Oh man. Yeah, so that, like, for me, like, I came into the job and Tom was like, all right, find a bunch of artists for this project. Like, this is what we need it to look like. And I was like a kid in a candy store. Like, I couldn't believe that was my first assignment, to get to, like, find these artists that do this, like, strong deco style. And I found, like, people like, there's artist Sean Pagels. That was a big surprise for me, because his work, I would say, is probably the most abstract out of the whole Booster Fund card set. And I was pretty nervous. Like, I think his work is amazing. And, a lot of people have, like, been, in the studio are enthusiastic about it too. But I definitely like to push the envelope. I like weird art. I like art that's unexpected, that surprises people, that makes people think, like, I never would have thought I liked that, but now I'm seeing it. I do like it. That's kind of what gets me really going. And so I commissioned Sean Pagels to do some cards, and I had people from all over the studio coming over and being like, those are my favorites so far. Those are my favorites. So that was a really exciting moment to see how open-minded people actually can be about art. Because I would have, played it a little safe in some places, because I didn't want to push it too far. But working with him was amazing. And then Scott Fisher did the most crazy physical dragon painting of Ziatora. And it just, like, he's amazing, because he'll send so many process sketches as he works. But just knowing that, like, I was part of making this dragon painting come into the world, into existence, that wouldn't have existed before, is one of the best moments I've ever had in my career, like, hands down.
Okay, so one last set before we wrap up for today, which is Battle for Baldur's Gate. It's Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. So once again, we get to tip our toe back into D&D. So what are the fun stories from this set?
Yeah, I don't know about, so this one was me again. I think this was kind of commissioning at the same time as an SNC. So Sarah and I were kind of two parts of a yin yang, so we divided and conquered. Well, for this one, I don't know if there's, like, fun stories, except that we dipped back into that classic rulebook style in a bigger way. We did more cards. We branched out from monsters in a cool way, and we got to bring in a bunch of new artists to do the thing. Like Jeff Miracola, longtime Magic artist, famous for his ATOGs and his Beebles, does amazing ink work, and so he really killed it. We got to bring in, like, Errol Otis did a black and white drawing, old time artist Jeff D. Lots of artists contribute to that style again, but like nothing. We knew we had a hit with the classic rulebook style, so we brought it back, and we want to, like, bring things back when people love them, right? But nothing like crazy. We didn't go crazy with this one, so I don't know if this is a really sad note to end on. There's not a fun story for this one.
Well, I just wanted to give a final note about Booster Fund as a whole. So as our final thing is, one of the things that's a lot of fun, and I recommend to the audience who hasn't done that to go on Gather or the search engine of your choice and really take a look at all, like, there's a lot there, and it's really, really fun to look at all the art and see the different versions of cards. And okay, so we're going to tease the future. We're going to use code names, and we're not going to say anything about it. Just what upcoming set that you've worked on that hasn't released yet are you the most excited to see people's responses to? Not about what is in it or anything, just what set coming up, you're like, I'm excited to see people see this set. Just use code names. Sarah. Yeah, use code names.
Code names? Okay.
Yeah.
I would say we have a set called Actuary coming up that I commissioned a series of pieces for. And it's a simple idea, but man, are they getting big reactions and excitement from players in studio.
Okay, Tom, what upcoming set are you most excited to see people's responses to?
That's a tough one, but it's a Sarah joint. Well, we all worked on it, but it was netball.
Okay, netball. Yeah, okay.
It's currently commissioning right now. The whole team, it's a whole team effort, but Sarah's commissioning all the art for this one, and it's the card treatment, the frames, the art is just coming together. Oh, I almost swore. I caught myself again. Really well.
It's like, is he going to say flawless or is he going to say something else?
It was more. Mark warned us not to swear.
So anyway, guys, I can see my desk. So that means I've made it to work. So I want to thank both of you for being here. It's a lot. I really enjoy having people on that do something completely different than what I do, so the audience can just sort of hear of all the passion that goes into making other aspects of Magic, because Magic is a group effort that lots and lots of people work on. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for having us, Mark.
Anytime.
Yeah, anytime.
And to everybody else, since I'm at my desk, you know what that means? It means this is the end of my drive to work. So instead of talking magic, it's time for me to be making magic. So once again, thanks to Tom and Sarah, and I'll see all of you guys next time. Bye-bye.